Fall is a survival thriller film co-written and directed by Scott Mann, starring Grace Carolyn Curry, Virginia Gardner, and Jeffrey Dean Morgan. It makes good use of its minimalistic concept to hold your attention until the very end. Almost 1 year after the death of her husband while mountain climbing, Becky remains depressed and a drunken mess, keeping her distance from her worried father James. One day, Becky is visited by her adrenaline junkie best friend Hunter, who wishes to offer some support. Hunter suggests that the two of them climb an abandoned 610-meter TV tower in the middle of the desert, as a means to quash Becky's fears once and for all. Although reluctant at first, Becky eventually agrees and the pair soon reach the top of the tower. However, when attempting to descend, the ladder breaks off and strands them at the very top. With no phone signal, the duo desperately tries to get help, while also combating dehydration and starvation among other things. I've always had an admiration for films and filmmakers that manage to pull off a minimalistic idea so successfully. For example, Kevin Smith made an ultra-low-budget comedy about a pair of convenience store workers in Clerks, while Ryan Reynolds starred in Buried, a film that took place entirely inside a wooden coffin. Perhaps it's just the very notion of a filmmaker maintaining such a simple idea for the length of movie that makes me so drawn to them in the first place. Fall is another example of films like these that uses a basic concept to its advantage. Two girls stuck on the top of a tall tower, and in doing so it both entertains and instills anxiety in the viewer. What the film lacks in credibility, it more than makes up for in keeping the audience on their toes. Given that the story takes place almost entirely on top of a super tall tower, it stands to reason that there will be several moments where the two characters experience vertigo from being trapped at such a height for an extended period of time. Here, the film uses this as an opportunity to relay a sense of urgency that they are truly stranded with seemingly no way of being rescued. This is compounded by the fact that the tower in question is located in a desert far from civilization, with little to no phone coverage. Normally I would roll my eyes at the stupidity of anyone willing to subject themselves to such an easily avoidable situation, but the film had me invested enough to see how far things would go for them. Why anybody in their right mind would think it's a good idea to scale this structure to overcome their fears is beyond me. But it is shown that Hunter is doing this mainly for likes on Instagram, complete with hashtags and duck-faced selfies. Sure, I could use this opportunity to berate Generation Z for their unhealthy obsession with social media, but this is a movie review, not a vitriolic tirade against the youth of today. Besides, we later see that the poor decision-making of these characters is somewhat cancelled out by their ingenuity and how they try to alert others to their location. For instance, in an effort to acquire better phone reception, the girls compose a message, click send, and lower the phone down using a rope hoping it will go through via a better signal. This made me realize that while Becky and Hunter may be incredibly foolish, they're certainly not dumb. Something else the film excels at is its great use of cinematography. We are frequently shown how expansively beautiful but terrifying these desert plains are surrounding the tower, as the two friends teeter precariously over the edge. Due to the unpredictable weather conditions, be it extreme heat or strong winds, both girls must use their intellect to survive a potential 610-meter drop to the ground below. It certainly gives the audience a hit of adrenaline seeing the two come within mere seconds of making the wrong move and plummeting to their deaths. I'm not sure whether this was accomplished through CGI or from the viewpoint of actual climbers wearing GoPros, but the film does a great job of showing the feeling of helplessness that Becky and Hunter endure during their predicament. Either way, it's pretty impressive. Both of the two lead actresses did a good enough job in their roles for me to care about what would happen to them in the long run. Grace Carolyn Curry played primarily into Becky's sympathy points, with her understandable depression being the catalyst for this entire story to occur in the first place. Again, why she would think climbing to the top of a huge tower would completely fix things for her is a mystery, but there's at least some believability behind it. We see that she craves adrenaline and that indulging in high-risk activities gives her a much-needed release of dopamine. So I suppose this is something that only adrenaline junkies would understand. Not me though. Virginia Gardner's performance as Hunter was also a highlight, as she went from an obnoxious Instagram user to a concerned survivalist rather quickly. At first I found her quite annoying due to her reckless attitude, but as the film went on I came to respect her, and how much she really cares about Becky. Though she may be viewed as a typical social media attention seeker, we see that her intentions here are honorable, as she is simply trying to be a good friend overall. Of course, I can think of several better ways to be a good friend that don't involve placing yourself in extremely dangerous situations, but as the saying goes, to each their own. On the other hand, Jeffrey Dean Morgan was underused as Becky's father James. The first time we see him, you really get the sense that he's a loving father who has been pushed away by his daughter through circumstances beyond his control. I understand that this film isn't supposed to be about him, but with the way he is set up near the beginning, it felt like a waste to just let him fade into the background as a stock character. Morgan is a talented actor who has given great performances in the past, so it was mildly annoying to see him play an otherwise generic role that could have been pulled off by pretty much anyone else. For what it is, Fall works as an effective, adrenaline-filled thriller that uses its simple concept well. There aren't too many films out there willing to subject its audience to such death-defying moments that have you shaking with fear along with the characters on screen. The way I see things, you could either pick the film apart for its implausibility, or you can sit back and enjoy it for the panic-inducing experience it wants to be, like riding on a roller coaster. I'm glad I picked the latter.